Good morning, Las Vegas. It is the Vegas Take coming away live here, 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN, the talk of Las Vegas. I'm Chris Wynn, in for Brian Shapiro on your Wednesday. Hump Day, J.D. Sharp on the way. Also live here in studio, a picture-perfect day here in the Las Vegas Valley as we have so much activity going down throughout the rest of this week and leading into the weekend, of course, as we are on the eve of tonight's Democratic debate here in Las Vegas, down on the Las Vegas Strip at the Paris Hotel. Also, a lot of festivities going down around that area. Also, the Bally's Hotel as well, too. So, obviously, we are going to get into a lot of what the expectation is with the Democrats here in this debate. And, of course, the Nevada caucus is about to take place this weekend. We've had early voting already taking place in the state. And, of course, the president of the United States, Donald Trump, landed in town last night. He is in the midst of a West Coast trip that's going to lead him from California to here in Nevada. He's going to be also in Colorado Springs today for an actual rally there. And, of course, has a lot of activity in the next few days going down leading up to a rally on Friday here in Las Vegas. So we'll be talking about the president, what his intentions are, and what he's going to talk about here in town also on the show. But to lead off the show, we're going to be talking about Donald Trump and the flurry of pardons that have taken place in the last 24 hours. And it's, as you can imagine, there's been a lot of reaction as to the people that were actually sympathy has taken part when it comes to the president and the people that he's actually pardoned as well as commuted sentences to. So we're going to get into that here at the top of the show. Joining us at the bottom of this hour, Destiny Herndon De La Rosa. She is with New Wave Feminists. They have planned a pro-life rally at the Democratic debate tonight down on the Las Vegas Strip. So we're going to talk to her, get some idea about the ideology of this group and exactly what it is that they're looking to accomplish tonight as they hold that rally down there during the Democratic debate. The 10 o'clock hour, we're going to be discussing the comments with talk show host Rush Limbaugh, where he discussed his thoughts regarding President Trump and any comments being made as far as Mayor Pete and his sexual orientation and whether or not he felt the president should exercise the opportunity to apologize, and whether or not the president gave him advice to Rush Limbaugh as far as the comments that he made, the highly controversial comments he made regarding Mayor Pete and his sexual orientation. We'll get into that in the 10 o'clock hour. Also, John Schaefer will join us, news anchor here with KDWN with the news in that hour. And we'll get into the Rob Manfred situation in Major League Baseball and the Astros cheating scandal, as well as and Rob Manfred's depiction of the trophy that is awarded to the World Series winner in Major League Baseball. A lot of players very upset over what went down as far as the commissioner and his comments there. In the 11 o'clock hour, we're going to be joined live in studio, prominent businessman Gavin Maloof, as well as Republican candidate Lisa Song-Sutton. We'll be live here in studio to talk to them. Very interesting to talk with Gavin because the Maloof family, very prominent Southwestern business family here, and obviously a huge presence here in Las Vegas, given what Gavin, as well as Joe and Adrian and the whole family have had holdings here in Las Vegas. They're very involved in this city, and it's going to be a really interesting conversation to talk to him, as well as Lisa, as far as the business community here in Las Vegas, and of course maybe a little bit of politics, but prominently, especially with Gavin, given that he was one of the faces and one of the owners of the Sacramento Kings back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Want to get his take on the sports scene here in Las Vegas and how things are transpiring with that, obviously with the Raiders coming to town and the possibility, and because he was an NBA owner, the possibility of getting NBA basketball here in Las Vegas full time. So that'll be the 11 o'clock hour. We'll get a chance to talk to him. But as I pointed out, it was a pardon frenzy yesterday. That was all the talk, all the rage across the national airwaves and, of course, the local airwaves as to President Trump and his decision to pardon and or commute sentences for a lot of prominent people and some not so prominent. And we want to get your thoughts as well, too, here on the phone line, 702-257-5396, as we discuss the president and his decision to pardon these and grant clemency on Tuesday to 11 people who served prison sentences for crimes in high-profile cases, ranging from gambling fraud to tax evasion to drug-related charges. Now, Trump, who has broad clemency powers granted by the Constitution, we understand this, right? Granted full pardons, a full legal forgiveness for a crime to 7 people and commuted and shortened the sentences of 4 others. Now, obviously, presidents have been pardoning people for years, and we acknowledge that. We understand that. And occasionally there's been situations where presidents across the board have pardoned people that are controversial, right? That are, you take a look at and you say, I don't necessarily think that was the right thing to do. It wasn't, I don't understand why you decide to pardon this person over another. And it calls into question credibility of the individual. But with Donald Trump, it is interesting to take a look at the individuals that he has decided to pardon or commute their sentences. And, of course, when you talk about high profile, maybe nobody more high profile than Rod Blagojevich. And obviously Rod Blagojevich was a prominent politician in Illinois for a number of years, obviously the governor of Illinois. And there is this perception out there of politics in that state, and it's not a good one. Okay, it's a reputation that corruption runs wild, that it's the wild, wild west, even though it's Illinois in the Midwest, and that is more so maybe than any other state in the country. It has a bad reputation. So the fact that the president would decide on Rod Blagojevich to be one of the people pardoned, I think is surprising to a lot of people. Now, to give you the details, basically, Rod Blagojevich, he's a former Illinois governor, he was serving a 14-year prison sentence for federal charges that he uses powers as governor to extract campaign money and other favors for potential contenders for the Illinois Senate seat that was left open by President Obama when he actually took office. Now, Trump has previously asserted that Blagojevich, a Democrat who appeared as a guest on the president's program, he was on Celebrity Apprentice, was treated very, very unfairly. There's a running theme here with President Trump. It's when he discusses the reasoning behind these pardons, it always is these people were wronged. These people have suffered. These people are, they're getting railroaded. They've been wronged as people. By the way, they're convicted felons. Okay, this isn't a pity party for people that are, serving hard time for crimes that they have been convicted of committing. All right, so you've got Blagojevich. You also have, obviously, high-profile a person in Bernard Kerik. He's the former police commissioner in New York. A lot of us remember him as really one of the prominent people, along with Mayor Giuliani in New York City during 9/11. He was the New York City police commissioner who was very lauded for his response to the 9/11 attacks, and rightfully so, in my opinion. Apparently, but unfortunately for him, he was sentenced to 4 years in prison after he pleaded guilty to felony charges of tax fraud and lying to White House officials while being interviewed to head the Department of Homeland Security. He served 3 years in federal prison before he was released in 2013. There's also a number of other prominent people that have been pardoned. We talk about Ed Bartolo Jr., former owner of the San Francisco 49ers. A lot of people in sports obviously know who he is. He was fined $1 million as part of a gambling fraud case in Louisiana in the late 90s. You've got Michael Milken, a rogue financier, talked about as the junk bond king, pleaded guilty in 1990 to several counts of securities and tax violations. In announcement of his pardon, the White House described him as one of America's greatest financiers and credited his work fighting prostate cancer. You also have Ariel Friedler. He's a founder and chief executive officer. You understand there's kind of a pattern going on here. Friedler, was the CEO of an Arlington, Virginia-based software company, pleaded guilty in 2014, served 2 months in prison for conspiring to hack into the computer systems of 2 competitors. You have Paul Pogue, who was the owner of a Texas construction company, pleaded guilty and sentenced to 3 years in prison in 2010 for filing a false federal tax return. And there's David Safavian, excuse me, and Angela Stanton also, who has been pardoned. Angela Stanton was an author, a reality TV star, served time in prison for her part in a stolen car ring. I guess you wouldn't characterize Angela Stanton necessarily as a white-collar criminal, but she is an avid Trump supporter, advocate for criminal justice reform, and the goddaughter of Martin Luther King Jr.'s politically conservative niece, Alveda King. And she spoke also at the 2018 Women for Trump conference and frequently posts pro-Trump messages on her Twitter account. So there's kind of a running pattern here when it comes to these flurry of pardons that the president has decided to engage in. And the running theme would be white-collar crime for the most part, right? And criminals who have been convicted of crimes, obviously nonviolent crimes. We're not talking about, serial rapists here. We're not talking about mass murderers by any stretch. But there's kind of a running theme here as J.D. Sharp joins us here live in studio. and I don't think I'm out of line, J.D., right? By pointing this out that it's very intriguing to say the least, right? That the president of the United States has decided to pardon these types of individuals.
Did any of these individuals spend time in El Chapo's cell in MCC?
I would suspect not. I think that one of those, the person you're talking about, obviously Michael Avenatti, is getting a raw deal on that with that situation, because none of these, I don't expect they did have to deal with that type of treatment when it comes to their incarceration.
And do you think that Michael obviously the giant elephant in the room question here is Michael Avenatti, considering these circumstances, himself going to get a pardon from President Trump?
I would suspect no, right? I don't think I'm going too far out on a limb to think that Michael Avenatti is probably not on the Christmas list of President Trump when it comes to a possible another round, right, JD, of Trump pardons. I don't think he's going to be on that list. But these people are. And as I just mentioned, those are some of the prominent people. There also was some commuted sentences. I talked about Blagojevich as one of those people. And but boy, it's funny because a lot of people, we think, JD, of Blagojevich, we think of him a lot like Trump. I mean, he's got kind of that, man, he has that kind of image, in my opinion, that he's a lot like Trump from a mindset standpoint, even though ideology-wise, although I'd say this, because people want to say that Donald Trump's a Republican. I don't necessarily think Donald Trump is a Republican. But that can be a whole huge conversation.
I would say he's closer to libertarian, to be honest with you.
But like you think about someone
he's
like
he's certainly not
Blagojevich.
far. He's not far right, and he's not far left. But what Donald Trump is able to do, which is kind of impressive, is he is able to get the total support of the extremist right, despite the fact that his policies don't match up with that. And I can't remember a president on the Republican side who's actually been able to have total support of the Republican Party without being out the door,
all the way outright, all the way right, or at least
in one direction,
least perceived on the right.
Exactly. So that's one of the geniuses that Donald Trump has, and that's happened with his presidency.
So we want to get your thoughts on what you think the motivation is for President Trump with these pardons. Is it just something where he's looking to give? Look, I'm looking to give clemency. I'm looking. It's. I want to put my heart on display out there and know that I these individuals deserve another chance or deserve to be pardoned.
Is interesting because,
or is there some other ulterior motive? Right.
The mob still runs Chicago. The mob is very, very prevalent and very rampant. Those crime families are very prevalent and are very, very prevalent in Chicago, even in 2020.
Well, that doesn't bode well if you're making that assertion. That doesn't make the president look good then if you're letting Blagojevich off the hook for all intents and purposes, right? And providing clemency here. 702-257-5396. We want your thoughts, your opinions, your takes on President Trump and his pardons here, as we get set to roll into 4 very eventful days here in Las Vegas on the politics front as the Democratic debate goes down tonight, down on the Las Vegas Strip. I believe there's going to be 6 obviously prominent Democratic candidates for president that are going to be on that stage. It's going to be the debut of Michael Bloomberg on the national stage when it comes to debates, when it comes to him running for president on the Democratic side. And there's been a lot of discussion, obviously, about Michael Bloomberg and his viability as a presidential candidate. And obviously pros and cons across the board for this guy. And we're going to get into that also on this show because there's a lot of perspective out there that think the reason Michael Bloomberg has been shooting up the polls is because he has a lot of appeal from those like J.D. Sharp and others who say, we like that aspect of a business guy being president. We like that thought of someone who has been a CEO, who has run a company, in getting into politics and taking over the political realm and jumping into that. We like that. And I think that's a big part of Michael Bloomberg's appeal, right?
And
as a candidate.
One thing Donald Trump has done is once he has an idea of what he wants to do, he tells the public what he wants to do, and then he proceeds. I mean, he tries to make it happen as a businessman would do, as someone who owns a business. When you tell your staff, when you tell your employees what you plan to have happen over the next 6 to 12 months, whatever that thing may be, if you don't follow through with it, you lose respect and you lose loyalty from your business, from your staff, from your employees. And I think that Donald Trump treats the presidency the same way, but he treats his constituents like his employees, and it's working out very well in his favor. And he gets things done efficiently. And he has experience in a lot of different areas in business. And Michael Bloomberg actually came from he wasn't overly wealthy, but he started a business in his garage with his partner. I mean, very similar to the way the way Apple was built. And he ended up, he's worth $62 billion. He's diversified himself into media outside of just the cash machine. So Michael Bloomberg is an interesting character. And you're right. I think someone with business experience is able to get more done and is more confident that they make more decisive decisions than someone who doesn't have any business experience, like a Barack Obama or a George Bush or one of those major political families like the Kennedys, for example. When you're a business person, and I'm not saying Donald Trump was self-made, because he was not. Obviously, he had a lot of help from his father, but he learned a lot. I mean, he was working with his father from age 8 all the way on. I mean, he had 40, 50 years of major business experience before he even considered running for president of the United States. And you can't say the same for one of those prominent political families. And I think that America likes that in a Michael Bloomberg and in a Donald Trump.
So you think, JD, it is a fair comparison for me to make, where I say there is that appeal when it comes to Michael Bloomberg that some people in Donald Trump's camp would relate to and agree with when you say a businessman as far as being president of the United States. I think there's some truth to that.
Well, we look at the economy.
Yeah.
Things are going very, very well. Again, Donald Trump, when he says he's going to do something, he at least makes a conscious effort to make it happen. You can't say that he doesn't. Now, did as Brian Shapiro likes to say, did Donald Trump get did Mexico pay for the wall? Did the wall get built? No, but he made a hell of an effort to make that happen.
Well, yeah, but you're jumping into another topic there that can be disputed as far as the whole timeline thing, because the fact of the matter is that Mexico's not paying for the wall, and it's basically a situation where the American taxpayers, if the wall ends up being completely built,
but that has nothing to do with...
It's going to be the American taxpayers that pay for it.
I get that, but that's Mexico's decision. Donald Trump can't force Mexico to pay for the wall.
Obviously, that's true. Yes, what you're saying is true.
He ran on the fact that we're gonna build a wall and Mexico is going to pay for it. What I'm saying is he didn't just set that aside. He tried to make that happen. Now he couldn't make it happen, but the American people appreciate the fact that he is attempting to do what he ran on.
That's true. I would say that's true. 702-257-5396. We're talking about President Trump. His visit here in Vegas. He's going to be here on and off for a few days. He's going to be bouncing back and forth between Colorado, California, and here in Las Vegas. The rally is on Friday here, and obviously a lot of prominent Nevada Republicans will be on hand for that. There's going to be a big lead up to that. But, of course, we also have the Democrat debate going on tonight. And coming up in our next segment, Destiny Herndon De La Rosa from New Wave Feminists is going to join us live in studio. They'll be holding a rally outside of the Democratic debate tonight. We'll talk to her about her organization and what that's all about coming up in the next segment. Now, we were talking about presidential pardons, and the exercise of the presidential pardon fury that took place basically 2 days before a federal judge is expected to sentence Roger Stone, as the RJ says here in Las Vegas, the GOP bad boy and Trump associate who was convicted on 7 counts of lying to Congress, tampering with a witness, and obstructing a House investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 election. And that obviously, when we're talking about pardons now, obviously Roger Stone is going to end up coming up, right? We're going to start exploring, start to wonder whether or not the president is going to be looking at leniency when it comes to Roger Stone. And also at the top of the hour, we're going to get into how that impacts the Department of Justice and also what this means for William Barr, the Attorney General of the United States, because there has been him mentioning, there's been some reports out there that he has considered resigning and that he has considered stepping down as the Attorney General. So we'll get into that much, much more. And when we come back, Destiny Herndon De La Rosa is going to join us from New Wave Feminists. We're going to talk about what they plan tonight going down. It's the Democratic debate live here in Las Vegas. I'm Chris Wynn, in for Brian Shapiro, along with J.D. Sharp. We're coming to you live from the beautiful Beasley Studios of 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDON, the talk of Las Vegas. Much more on the way after the break.